Hello travelers, this is Korea Travel Guide and this time I'm here to talk about Korean subways. In my opinion, the subway system in Korea is one of the best things that has happened in this country. It's really cheap, it's pretty clean, and it's relatively fast enough. Now, you might wonder what I mean by being relatively fast enough. This probably only applies to Seoul, but of course, I'm talking about the traffic. Seoul is a densely populated metropolitan city with millions and millions of people coming in and out and going back and forth. And of course, roads in Seoul can only hold so many cars on there. From my experience living as a citizen in Seoul for the past 20-something years, it's usually a bad idea to hit the road in Seoul from 8 AM to 9 AM and 3 PM to 8 PM. It gets bad to the point where taking the subway actually takes the same amount of time or just a few minute difference depending on from where to where in Seoul you are going. That's why some people in Seoul don't bother getting a car. Of course, money is always the primary reason for that, but getting a car is simply not a good investment as you're not gonna be driving a lot anyways. So, subways are deeply connected with people's everyday lives in Seoul, as well as Busan, Daejeon, Daegu, and Gwangju, other cities that also have subways. And that's why subways are easily the best means of transportation for tourists as well. But for you to fully utilize this great system at your will, it's best that you know your facts and tips beforehand. First, you gotta know how T-Money works. T-Money is a public transportation debit card used for paying seamlessly on buses and subways without the need for cash. And for you to take advantage of that up to 4 transfers for a single payment, you need to have a T-Money card. T-Money cards can be bought all around the country, including convenience stores and Seoul subways line 1 to 8. Keep in mind that outside of Seoul, Gyeonggi, and Incheon, some might not have them in stock. Now, about transfers, you're actually allowed to transfer from buses to subways and vice versa. So if you took a bus to the subway, take subway line 2, transfer to line 6, then take another 2 buses to your destination, the whole thing costs less than $2. Well, frankly speaking, such drastic amount of transfers won't happen that much, just saying it's possible. Since it's meant to let you transfer to another bus or subway, there is a catch to this. Transferring from one vehicle to another cannot take more than 30 minutes, or you have to pay full price. Although from 9 PM to 7 AM, this 30-minute time limit is increased to 1 hour. Another catch is that you cannot take the same bus or subway that you just took, or it will not count as a transfer and you need to pay up. So for instance, if you took the wrong bus or to the opposite direction, unfortunately, you have to pay again. But it's only $1, so not too much of a big deal. Oh, and there aren't that much, but some buses are actually cashless, which means you must have a T-Money card to ride them. On top of that, if you take buses and subways in Seoul before 6:30 AM, you get a 20% discount. This also applies only to T-Money card holders. All in all, TLDR, get a T-Money card. If you don't have a T-Money card yet, you need to buy one-way tickets on one of these ticket booths. These machines offer English, Japanese, and Chinese. Select the name of your destination, select how many tickets you're getting, and you're all set. After you pay, a card will drop down from the machine like that. Then you take this card to your destination. When you arrive, you need to return this card to the deposit fee refund machine. They look something like this, and when you put your card in, it will cough up a 500 won coin. You can also charge your T-Money card by tapping the 4th option, putting your card on the machine, and paying. Now that you know your facts about T-Money, let's learn more about subways. For this video, I will be focusing on the Seoul Metropolitan Subway. You might think Seoul Subway might be small because Seoul is small, but not at all. Seoul Subways is a very huge system with more than 30 subway lines, more than 700 subway stops, and millions of passengers every single day. If that doesn't give you an idea, look at this map. The Seoul Subway Line 1's longest ride lets you travel up to 200 kilometers, and that 200 kilometers is soon to be extended to around 220 kilometers. These northern ends of the Seoul Subway is so up there that they're literally less than 10 to 20 kilometers away from the border to North Korea. I'm calling it the Seoul Subway, but it covers way more than just Seoul. 5 provinces to be exact. How you ride Korean subways are simple. You get your T-Money card, tag it through the ticket barrier, ride them to your destination, tag your card again, and get out. But if that was it, I wouldn't have made this video, have I? While it's simple enough, there are a few things where first-timers often make mistakes. To give you an example, let's say we're staying at a hotel near Myeongdong Station and our destination is the Gyeongbokgung Palace. Google Maps is not recommended as the government only allows certain detailed collection of map data to a select few service providers, and Google Maps is not one of them. Personally, I like using Naver Maps, so we're going with that. You put your current location and your destination like that, and the option for subway pops up. Seems you need to take subway line 4, transfer to line 3, arrive at Gyeongbokgung Station, then walk your way to the palace. Let's take a closer look at the route. The app tells you to take the subway bound for Chungmu-ro Station. This is where a lot of travelers make mistakes on. They take the opposite direction of the subway that they were supposed to. The solution for this, conveniently, is to stare at the ceiling. This is what it looks like at one of Myeongdong Station's ticket gates. If you look closely at the sign on the ceiling, you'll notice that Chungmu-ro is written on the sign. Once you found it, all you have to do is follow the arrow of the sign to where it's pointing at. On Myeongdong Station's case, however, you can take both directions of the subway at the same platform. But once again, all you have to do here is to stare at the ceiling. Do you see those small signs up there? If you look closer, it looks something like this. Chungmu-ro is written on the sign, as you can see. You can also tell by looking at this sign on top of the boarding gate. The opposite direction will have this arrow pointing to the opposite way. Alright, so you managed to make it to Chungmu-ro Station. Now you need to transfer to line 3. Transferring is super easy actually. This time stare at the wall. For Chungmu-ro's case, there's this sign on the wall. All you have to do is to follow that sign to wherever it leads you. Let's check our map again. It says we need to take the train bound for Uljiro Samga. Again, let's stare at the ceiling because we don't want to take the subway going to the opposite direction. As you can see, it says for Uljiro Samga, go straight. Unlike Myeongdong Station, this one has 2 split platforms for each direction. You can see that on the sign. It says for Ogum direction, which is indeed the opposite, go back. Great, now you took a ride at Chungmu-ro Station and arrived at Gyeongbokgung Station. Making your way to the right exit can be a bit confusing, but essentially it's the same thing. On the map it says you need to go to exit number 5. Once again, stare at the ceiling or the wall to find your exit. The exits are always marked with yellow squares or circles. They come in many different forms, but the color is always similar. You might feel a bit intimidated seeing all these different stops clumped together in a few arrows, but just concentrate on where your stop is, follow the arrows, and eventually you'll get there. Though this many stops even makes someone like me confused, and I've been living in Korea almost all my life. Anyways, now you know how to ride a Korean subway. Congratulations! Now let's go through a few more tips. Even though I told you close to everything there is to not make mistakes, there is one line that you will still get lost at, and that is line number 1, the dark blue line. They not just have a 3-way direction, their trains have normal trains that stop at all stops. They also have 3 express trains and 1 limited express train. Because of this, some stations have like 5 or 6 platforms and I get bamboozled every time I go there. While you can still be able to find your way with the skills I taught you a few minutes ago, you're still gonna suffer big time. There are lots of subway stations that have the opposite sides blocked with separate ticket gates. This doesn't mean that if you go through the opposite gate by mistake, you have to pay again to get to the other side. At every ticket gate, you'll notice something like these differently shaped gates. Pressing that green button will call someone at the station's office. However, it's unlikely that they will speak English, so if you want to get to the other side, say 반대 방향으로 갈게요. That's 반대 방향으로 갈게요. It means I want to go to the opposite direction. If they don't understand you, use a translator I guess. Restrooms, everybody needs to go there, including when you're in a subway. But unfortunately, for most subway stations, the restroom is outside the ticket gate. Meaning that on your way to your destination, if you need to take a quick dump, you can't do anything about it. But in fact, you can, with the same method I used above. Press that green button and say, 화장실 갔다 올게요. That's 화장실 갔다 올게요. It means you will get to the bathroom and come back. And that's everything you need to know about Korean subways. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you found this video helpful. Watch some of my other videos on the screen which are equally as awesome. Safe travels everyone!